Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sharp Talk Podcast. I'm Tom, aka Tom Hosting Outdoors on YouTube and Instagram, and I'm joined today by my normal co-hosts, Gerald, Alex, and Jake. You guys, if you've been following the podcast for a while, you know where to find them at. Our special guest today would be Dirk Werning. We've had him on here before, but he's back with us again. You can find him on YouTube as Dirk Werning or on Instagram at Dirk Werning _YouTube. So welcome back, Dirk.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So today's going to be kind of the first different episode. We're changing up the format as we said last episode. So Alex, go ahead and kick us off. What do we got first here?
Well, I'm going to kick it off with, what is up, guys? Because I just want to banter. Sorry, I always want to say that. So the new format is, it's going to be simple. Let's just kind of kick it off with any new little acquisitions that you guys want to talk about.
Anybody?
I can go.
Let's go with Jake.
Go for it, Jake.
My favorite recent acquisition is the Demco AB20.
Oh, that is cool. The
I knew I was going to like it, but I didn't know how much I was going to like it, and I have just been adoring it. It's a super fun knife and a total beast, and a little bit bigger and more beefy than I usually carry, but I'm vibing with it.
That's sweet, man. It matches your beard, you know, like a kind of rough P10 with the beard.
This is what I just trimmed my beard with the other day, actually.
Oh, there you go.
And you don't want to hit the goiter with that one, man. That's 20 CV steel, right?
They come in 20 CV or 3V. I waited for one with gray G10 and 3V because I thought 3V seemed more fitting for a chunk of steel like this is. I plan on beating on it outdoors as soon as these fires go away, so I thought 3V would be more fun.
Very awesome. Cool. That's definitely on the list for me to get. I've been planning to get one for quite a while, so eventually I'll get around to picking one of those up. I really like that knife.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I've got one coming in right now too.
Sweet. I heard the action's like crazy smooth. Like
I really enjoy just playing with it.
Yep.
That's nuts.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
How is your 8015, Alex?
Flawless.
Dude, mine is super smooth.
And I have like I have the S35 VN version, but you guys know I don't
so do I.
Dude, it's like I just do a little light drop on the edge and it becomes like a razor again. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I really like it, man. That's going to be a permanent keeper in my collection. Most definitely not selling that. How about you, Dirk? Anything new?
Yeah, the newest thing I just got about a week or so ago was a Holt Spectre.
Oh, look, I finally got one.
Number 1201, I think it is. I'd have to look. But yeah, my brother won a lotto and picked it up and sent it to me. So my brother already had one. So we had kind of been joining the lotteries, each of us, to try to get one that would then ultimately come to me. So it worked out, and now I'm good.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. I mean, I've reviewed a couple. I've had my brothers in and stuff, and it's just I really tried to get one earlier, but this one worked out.
I have a question for you. So now I know that's got to be a V4, right?
Yep, V4.
Liner lock.
Liner lock.
So have you reviewed frame lock?
I did. I reviewed 404 as a frame lock way back when I first started my channel. Earlier, like in maybe February or something, I think, is when I had a Spectre into review.
So I had a V3 before I had my V4 that I have right now, which I almost cried that I sold it because I felt that my frame lock was a lot nicer on the closing as far as how smooth it was without any noise or anything. And I've noticed like my V4 liner lock has a little bit of a liner rattle. and when it's like maybe getting to like almost like 50% close. It's like a weird noise.
I haven't felt that or heard any of that. Mine's got a little squeak. I need to pull it apart and make sure that it's all looped up because it just seems like it's a little dry. But it's not any kind of weird noise. It's just a little squeak as it's closing.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's more of a squeak sound that I experience on mine. But I know on my V3, it was just like the way that they do their integrated detent.
Yes.
You would basically slide that lock bar out.
Mm-hmm.
Had a smoother disengagement for me, and again, like it didn't have any noise or anything like that. It was just either like a positive or negative. Like the lock was either engage or disengage, and then it would just slam shut. You know, and the V4 on mine, actually, the action is even faster on the V4 that I have, which is kind of cool. But I like the frame lock one better.
Yeah, I could go either way. I'm just glad to have one.
Yeah.
They know, and my brother sold it to me for the same price he bought it for, so there wasn't going to be any monkey business there.
Too bad. He didn't come up.
And if we decide to sell it, I told him that, you know, if a time comes when it gets sold, we'll kind of split the profit because that's the thing to do, right? He gave it to me for what he paid. So if I sell it for double, which I never would because I think that's absolutely retarded. But, you know, if we put a couple $100 on it, then we would just split it.
Yeah. I would sell mine for double. For sure I would.
I don't know. I think the hype, we saw the hype before with heater stuff. It was selling for double and triple.
Yeah.
And quadruple a couple years ago. And
now they go for less than half.
Yeah, they're going for about table price now, give or take. I mean, they're not totally dumped like some others, but yeah, I mean, and Spectres will die down too, I think, at some point, and the hype will be back to a normal even keel, so to speak.
But that's what's funny is that, you know, so the original deadline for Spectres to stop being manufactured was supposed to be Blade Show.
Mm-hmm. Dude, they're in it for the money. I mean, everybody's in it for the money, right? So as long as people, the hype is there, are they really going to stop? I don't know.
Yeah, because they're supposed to be promoting that new haptic model though, which is a little bit smaller of a knife than a Spectre, but a little chunkier.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks pretty interesting. I'm waiting.
It does for sure. But I don't know. Are they really going to stop a good thing?
Well,
they sell out of in a minute? I don't know. I mean,
that's originally actually what I was told by the Holtz is that, you know, when I was getting my V4, they were telling me, yeah, you know, Blade Show is going to be the end of it. So, but I know they never officially had a Blade Show, but that was, you know,
so that's loophole. Blade Show never happened.
Blade Show 2021.
Yeah.
What Blade Show? They didn't say which one, did they?
That's right.
The Blade Show.
That's right.
So, you know, I don't know. I mean, if something's flying off the shelves, should you just stop it and move on to something else? I don't know.
You should stop it and then come back in a year. That's what I would do.
That's what some makers do.
Yep. That's
they
the right
we're
way to do it.
We're never going to make it again. And then 6 months or a year later, they start making them again.
Well, I like the way Jason Guthrie's done it. Like, that's another one of those knives right now, the Scout.
Mm-hmm.
And the Scout, you know, Jason said, I'm not making this knife for another 2 years, right? I think it was 2 or 3 years or something like that. He announced it. He's doing something else. And all of a sudden, you know, everybody's going nuts for Scouts. But at least he said, I'm coming back with it, but this is when I'm doing it. And, you know, with Jason Guthrie, he's pretty on point. When I got on his books, it was a 1.5 year wait. And, but he literally contacted me 2 months before a 1.5 year to remind me.
Okay.
Then at exactly a 1.5 year, he's like, okay, your build's, you're up. What are we going to do for your build? What do you want? And then, he didn't do that fat carbon that I had, but I had the material at home. So it ended up being, I got lucky he was buying some Damascus bar stock from a guy who literally lives 20 minutes away from me. So I literally gave that guy my fat carbon, who was shipping Damascus to Jason anyways, here in Long Beach area.
There you go.
So then, it took a little longer for my knife to get made because I had to wait for the stuff.
Right.
But then it ended up being like one of the coolest scouts. It looked really nice when he finished it. So it was worth it. Special piece.
The Knife
But
Whisperer.
makers like that.
The Knife Whisperer asked, "Would you take a Spectre over an Arius?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Because of the size. Not because I think it's made better, but because the Spectre, the size of it, and like the narrowness of it, like it's just a really easy knife to carry.
Oh, it's so easy.
Yeah, like
I mean, it just disappears in the hand, it disappears in the pocket, super comfortable. It's a great all-around everyday knife.
you liked it a lot, huh, Tom?
I did. That's probably my favorite knife I've ever handled that's been sent to me.
Yeah, that was a cool.
Yeah.
As far as build quality and everything goes, that's like top-notch stuff.
Yeah, it was really good.
For
Like,
sure.
I think like sometimes the market craze makes me dislike stuff a little bit. When I hunted my first Spectre V3, I got kind of lucked out. I didn't get it at table, but my buddy sold it to me for $1,000, which was more than reasonable.
Right.
And he lives like 40 minutes away from me in Glendale. So I went over there and drove and just picked it up, handed him cash, and got to look at it before I took it.
Oh,
So
cool.
it like worked out, But that took me 3 years to get to that moment when I finally got one.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then I lucked out and got the V4 and sold the V3 to another buddy of mine. And it's a knife I just don't want to sell it, even though it's a good money maker. And I think it's a fantastic knife for the price that you pay. Like for the table price, it's unfreaking believable how good it is, right? But then when you start paying like $1,600, $1,700, and I'm starting to compare that to like my Culture Tex now, right? And it's not quite as fine or refined as something like that. So that's when, to me, they start not making sense, at least for me.
I agree with you there. At the $1,600, $1,800, $2,000 price range, there was a couple going on Facebook just the last couple of days in that. I think one was $3,300.
Yeah, that was that
And-
Prestige. I put a laughy face on that.
And
that post.
yeah, it had a Dama blade and some stuff, but I'm sorry, that's not worth the $3,300. I'm sorry,
Right,
it's just not.
right.
It's not at that level.
Now, at that level, price-wise, you're talking, just to be in perspective, we're talking like Shirogorov custom division money, right?
Yep.
That's like really like serious collector level shit. So
Yeah.
I don't think the Spectre's to that level, in
Nope.
my opinion.
I agree. I mean, when you're in that $3,000+ range, that you're into custom stuff, Shirogorov, TJ Fisher.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
You're getting close to Frank Fisher price. I mean,
Right.
that's a whole different level. Not that the Spectre is bad, but it's different ballpark than custom Fishers. That's
Right. Right.
all. So, I mean, it's worth whatever somebody's going to pay. And if somebody really wants it, they may pay crazy price. I mean, I've done it over the years.
yeah.
I'm sure I've overspent. I know I have. Guaranteed. But I wanted that particular knife from that particular person, and I paid the price.
Right.
But I'm glad I did, and I'm very happy with it.
Right.
So,
Gerald, any
What's
new
up?
acquisitions?
No, nobody, just loners. I haven't bought anything in a while.
Any of those loaners you really like messing around with right now?
I got a bunch of TRM stuff in right now, and I like them. I don't think I'm going to buy one, though.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right, we're going to elaborate on that in a little bit because I have one. I want to say I really, really like it, but I don't love it.
I think that's the one you lent me.
Yep. Yeah.
The Atom, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool because it's thin, it's super light, and it's got a thin blade, but it's just not, I mean, I actually like my Benchmade 940 2001 better as a carry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like the Atom that you sent, but I'm not going to rush out and buy one. I just didn't fall in love with it. I mean, nothing wrong with it. I just didn't love it for me, and so I wouldn't rush out and buy one.
They're close to doing that titanium Atom, which should be interesting compared to the current micarta and G10 ones. And then they've also updated the neutron, so there's a new neutron, and that one is going to have a lot of the features from the current Atom, so it'll be a deep carry clip and a couple of things that'll kind of update that one. So I've had both the neutron and the Atom. I've sold both, not because I didn't love them, but because the money was green, and I know they're coming out with new stuff that I'll probably buy when it drops. So
yeah.
There's always another knife. I mean, we can't keep them all.
Yeah, there's always plenty of other knives.
I've done that for a lot of years, and just really in the last, 4, 5, 6 months have I been selling stuff. But yeah, there's always something else around a corner to buy. Like the 80/20. I just worked a deal today. He's shipping it out on Monday. We had been talking about it. He was going to load it in and whatnot, but I just ended up buying it from him today, and I'll get it next week. So, there's always another one around the corner.
Yep.
yes, there is.
All right. Well, let's move along. I got a new acquisition. I got the Blade Banter.
Yep.
And
Nice.
It's cool. And that's going to segue into our next section.
You gonna forget about me?
Yeah, what about Tom?
Yeah, what about Tom, man?
Who cares about
I know I got small
Gotta
hands
keep
there.
those tiny hands full.
Oh, you're telling me that his little hands can fit more knives than he already owns?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
man.
Yep. I picked up Benchmade Mini Presidio 2,
Oh, that's cool.
the new one with the CF Elite stuff. I've always liked the knife, but at like a $200 price point that it used to be with the aluminum scales, wasn't a huge fan. This
Mhm.
brings it down to like 145, I think, MSR anyhow.
Okay.
What does that scale material feel like in your fingers?
It's like, it's hard
Huge.
saying. It's different. Thank you. It's different. It's not super plasticky, honestly. But you can tell that it's not like titanium or aluminum. But with the texturing and the milling that they did on them, I guess it's not milling technically on these. They're probably cast, but I don't know. It feels pretty good, honestly, and it knocked almost like 3/4 of an ounce off of this knife because they used to be kind of heavy because they had the full steel liners and the aluminum.
Right.
But they did a lot of little things well with it. I only bought it because Gerald was doing that 14 days at S30V, so I was like, hey, I want to hop on that. I don't have anything in S30V. So
That's cool.
I picked it up, and yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of that. It's a good knife, easy to carry.
It looks a little bit like, and it's gonna sound funny, but it's kind of serious too. It looks a little operated.
It is a little bit. It's part of
Right?
it's the first Benchmade black class I've ever bought.
That's pretty sweet, man. It looks like a good knife that you could carry if you're like a first responder or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a good everyday carry, but it's got a lot of texture to it still without ripping up your veins.
right.
I like it.
Very, very cool.
And it's just big enough for my little hands.
That's sweet.
What you got next, Alex?
That's important.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, usually I have 1,000 new acquisitions, but, money's been tight lately. So, but I did squeeze to get a Wii Banter, and it's a cool knife. It doesn't do anything particularly better than every other knife out there, but it does kind of a little bit of everything really well.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And
the price is right.
And the price is right, and it was really, really, really light and thin in the pocket. Even with slacks, I didn't really feel it at all. And I usually am okay with carrying bigger knives, and like a 940 feels nice too, or my Neon Zero. But the banter was actually surprisingly like light and thin in the pocket. Like I actually noticed, like it made me stop and think for a second. I was like, holy shit. Especially when I sat down in my slacks, right? Like that's when it kind of digs in the corner of your pants usually.
Right.
Like nothing. So yeah, it's a really well-made knife, and I love Ben Peterson. Always been a big fan of that dude because I'm a big part of the knife community anyways. So yeah, cool knife. I recommend it.
Awesome.
So next section is going to be about us picking one knife that we kind of want to all comment on and review a little bit. And just something, in the last month, since we're doing this now once a month, like in the last month, what do you guys have you been enjoyed carrying? Pick one particular piece you want to talk about. So we'll start off with Jake.
With me?
Yeah.
I'm ready. So I picked the Ferrum Forge Stinger. I got this a couple weeks ago. I was actually down in San Diego, and when I had mentioned in a video that I was going to be down there, my buddy Ashton, who lives down there, reached out to me, said, dude, let's meet up at the Ferrum Forge shop. So we did, and I spent like close to 6 hours just chatting with him and Elliot of Ferrum Forge. And then Elliot gave this to me along with the Micro Fortis just to review, and he was super generous about it. But I have kind of fallen in love with it. The way I ended on my review of the knife was that it would become my new recommendation sub $100 for people, because I get asked all the time, what knife should I buy? My budget's $100, and this one is like a half an ounce heavier than a Bug Out, but carries just as slim, just as deep, super comfortable in the pocket. It's slicier. I like Nitro V better than S30V so far, and there's just a lot of really good happening on it, in my opinion. Especially the blade grind is just very, it's a proper slicey, thin behind the edge. Like the geometry is great. It's fun to play with. There's a lot of good happening here. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but for sub $100, I think right now of the knives I've experienced, it's the best value proposition in terms of materials, build quality, weight, carry profile, ergos. It checks all the boxes really well for me.
Well, you definitely picked the right maker for Tom and Gerald to talk about. They love Ferrum Forge.
No comment.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna kick it off with my thoughts on that thing. So here, hold it up real quick. Let me look at it. So like the pocket clip is really small, deep carry. That's really cool. I think the handle, although it's shaped for your hand, still allows you to do you can still move your hand around. It's not locked in one spot. The flipper tab is relatively small, and I really, really dig the filler on it, so you can spidey flip it. The forward finger choil seems to be done pretty well, although it takes a lot of cutting edge off. It's still got plenty of cutting edge overall. It's a nice subtle drop point, so it's not like, it's still pleasing to the eye. It's not like dramatic or anything like that. And it looks fairly thin as an overall profile. I would guess that looks like to me about like 0.4. Interesting.
Yeah, probably even slimmer than that.
Yeah, I don't know what the blade stock, it looks really slim too. Is that night? And you said that's Nitro V?
It's Nitro V.
And that's another point for it right there. Because I had really good experience with that stuff.
And they're $90, which is good.
Yeah, that steel is really, really, it takes a really, really fine edge. It's not like the Reigning King in edge retention, but when you do put that edge on there, I've experienced that it's one of the finest edges I've ever been able to put on my knife. So that's my thoughts on that. That's pretty cool, especially at the price point.
I like the looks of that, honestly, and It's no secret that I'm not a huge Ferrum Forge fan, but looks like a good design, and it seems like it is a good value for the money.
Tom, who do you like more, Ferrum Forge or Hinderer?
Oh, God. I'd rather quit the podcast than answer that.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Wait. Hold on, guys. Hold on.
There it is.
Yeah, I got a soundboard.
Oh Jesus.
All right, moving right along.
Oh boy. Yeah,
Gerald,
I think it looks really.
what do you think
I think it looks really good. Not to jump in, sorry there, Gerald, but you know, I've had a couple of different Ferrum Forges over the years that I've owned and sold, and actually had really good customer service with one. Because I was an idiot and dropped it, and it hit the tile point down and busted the tip right off. And I had just bought it used from somebody and got it that day. And I reached out and asked the guys down at Ferrum Forge, hey, what would it cost for a new blade, right? And they told me $100. I shipped it down. They literally got it. I'm in Northern California, so they got it like the next day. They shipped it out the same day with a brand new blade. I got it the day after, and they told me, don't even worry about it. We'll just take care of it for you. So
Awesome.
I didn't even buy it from them. You know, it was used. I bought it from just a guy. It was one of the archbishops, and loved it for a while, you know. And so that's my only real experience with Ferrum Forge. But that one there looks really nice. I've seen some other, you know, people talking about it and whatnot. And for the price, I don't think you can go wrong. For under $100, I don't know that you can go wrong with a knife, period. So, I mean, I think it looks like it's a pretty good design. And I like the small flipper tab that works. So,
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of competition right now at like the 50 and under price point.
Yep.
But the like 75 to 100 is a thinner herd, and so I like that they're playing right there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, your turn, Gerald. Sorry about that.
Well,
Oh, it's all right. I have not had one. I would like to test one. It does look like it has a nice neutral, comfortable handle.
It does.
And yeah, definitely at the price, it does not seem like a bad deal at all.
So I've never bought a Ferrum Forge ever because I always found them to be cool, but not compelling enough for me to buy one. But that actually, I might actually buy one of those. I'm not sure. Just for that price and everything, like that looks like a good little beater right there.
Yeah, I've been carrying it in my back pocket as a secondary a lot because it's just so thin and light that it's easy to just chuck wherever. And then it's slicey, so it's for cutting tasks. I've been using it more than my average carry.
There you go. Very good. So let's go on to the next person.
I think we need to take the soundboard away from you.
Lost his
Exactly.
privileges.
Oh my god. Yeah, we need to take the soundboard away from Alex. Shit.
With great power comes great responsibility, Alex. Come on now.
Knife Whisperer says if you go to White Mountain Knives, use the LTK discount code and get a stinger for $72.
Dang, there you
Dang,
go.
there you go.
That's good info there. Thank you, Mr. Whisperer. I appreciate the whisper.
Who's next?
All right, so next, so I'm going in the row as I see you guys in the little screens. So I'm going to say the next person is going to be Dirk.
You know, it was tough, Alex. You told me to pick a knife.
Yes.
You know, come on now. Who can pick one knife? But I did. I pulled out the Direware
Oh, yeah.
Solo V5, I think this one is, with the recurve blade.
Yeah.
This one sits on my office desk here and is my fidgeter on a normal day, whether I'm carrying it or not. It's got a nice carbon fiber handle. I think it's M390 if I remember. It's been a while, and yeah, I can see it there. The thing about this one, it's almost like it was just made for my hand.
I can see that.
And this is the one I sent to Knife Junkie, and he also said, man, it feels like it was made for my hand. And then I sent it to a Therapeutic Edge, and he said the same thing. So I don't know if we all have the same size hand, or if it's just that cool that it actually matches a lot of hands.
I think Tom's smiling because we're talking about size hands.
No, I'm smiling because Paul says it's kind of cool, even if it looks like a Medford/ZT with scoliosis.
Oh, good God.
Oh, here's Paul. OMG. Where's the board at, man?
Yeah. Wow. That is a good one, Tom. I got nothing now.
It's like, what do you even say to that?
Yeah, I got nothing now. So.
Oh man!
God,
wow.
I couldn't kill that cat.
Now, what other blade shapes have been on that design?
Oh, they have a couple.
Yeah, they've got like a Warncliffe, and they've got kind of a drop point, and that might be it. I don't know. They can do anything you want because these are all custom made. I got this used, but you can reach out and he can custom make you whatever it is that you want, really. So I don't know. I love the look of a recurve, and this is their Tonto Recurve, they call it. I don't know. Somebody was selling it. I thought it was great, so I bought it. I've had this one several years now, and it's one I use to loan out a lot to people that haven't experienced direware before, and so it's one of the ones in my collection that kind of goes around. I mean, I'll loan pretty much anything out, but that one and 3 or 4 others are ones that typically get shipped around.
Yeah, well, that I've wanted a direware for quite a while. I think the model I want to get myself is the tail whip. That's the one I've always had my eye on. But that, any direware for me, every time I see it, it's like that knife. Like, you just see the silhouette from far away, it's a direware,
Right.
And they all have, like, Paul mentions Medford, and, Medford is, yes, it's that overbuilt tank chunky knife. But I think when you handle a direware, it's a little bit, it's a lot different, because what we were talking about is like a completely contoured handle that's smooth and comfortable. We're talking about pivots that are so smooth on these things. I mean, it's no Medford, I assure you.
No, it's two different total. It's two different leagues.
Yeah, I mean, direware is that's more like serious collector stuff to me.
Collectors with scoliosis.
Yep, awesome knife.
Yeah, well, Alex, if you're looking for one, I got a buddy who's selling one that I keep almost buying.
It's gonna be
Damascene steel blade and fat carbon fiber handle.
Oof.
It's pretty nice. I may end up having to buy it, but we'll see.
Oh, I saw something about a Norseman horse's cock. That's my joke with Knife Whisperer.
Yeah. Yes, it's better than the horse cock on the Norseman.
You know what? And that knife, the Norseman, it's funny he mentions that, because the Norseman is a knife that I put off buying it for so many years because of the blade shape. I hated it. And so one day, I'm like, you know what? If I buy one, I'm not going to lose much money if I decide to flip it, right? It'd be cool to review. And I had money at the time, so I ordered one, and I still have it now. I refuse to sell it. I love that thing.
Yeah, it's one that I was very much in the same boat as you. I resisted it. I thought it was totally ugly and didn't really want anything to do with it. And then a local buddy here, not far from me, an hour or so away, loaned me that and a couple of other knives several months back. And I had a much better appreciation for the Norseman after I had it in my hand.
Yep. Yeah. It's still one of those knives. It used to be like I think $650 when they first started making them.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been like maybe like $750 would be a good price point for a Norseman. I know like
Yep.
$925 is a little high, but even with what I paid, I didn't mind it whatsoever. I really liked the knife. I gave it a cleaning the other day, and it's back to like chop your finger off drop. You know.
Oh, they run great for sure because there's a little bit of heft to the blade, so that thing's gonna drop down on you if you're not careful.
Yep. What do you guys think of the Daiware?
Well, I actually got to handle one that was like more of a drop point.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it is definitely not a Medford.
No.
You know, it's nice and smooth. It was comfortable. It's like a chunky, hand-filling knife.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with that, G. And Gerald, that's actually more than a nice compliment coming from Gerald, because if we know Gerald, you know. So, yep, Tom.
I like the look of it. With a drop point, I think it'd be a really nice knife. That blade shape doesn't do anything for me, but the knife itself looks pretty darn nice. Was that a contoured handle on that, Dirk?
Yeah, it's really nicely contoured. I doubt I can.
Yeah, it looked like it. Yeah.
See, it's really nicely contoured. It just feels great. You can feel the clip. I mean, the clip is rather big, so you do feel that in the hand, but it's really not too much of a hot spot. It's something you could, use all day long and still be okay with.
Yeah, it looks like it fits right in with the rest of your collection too.
Mm-hmm.
The clip almost acts like a little pad, because I've handled a few Daiwares before.
Yep.
And it's not like, if it was like a one big piece of milled titanium, I think it would be a little bit more like intrusive. But the way he does it, I agree with Dirk 100%. It looks super comfortable.
Yep. And it just works. It's a clip that works fairly well also, which is important. There's too many knives you get where the clip just doesn't work.
Right.
That just kills me.
Jay?
Yeah, I've never handled anything from Daiware, so I'm definitely not an expert on them. I would say that on the surface, I've never personally been that interested in them stylistically, but I've always heard that they're well made. So if I was to be spending that much on a knife in that class, kind of that like chunky overbuilt, that's where it kind of loses me, is they just always seem so hefty, and I'm not like a hefty knife kind of guy. They'd probably be at the top of my list in that segment. It's just not a segment I really dabble in all that much, but it's good to hear so many good things about it, because I mean, I've got respect for the maker. If everybody, especially I'm an ergos guy, if there's multiple people with different hand sizes who are all saying it feels like it was built for their hand, and that's a very impressive thing to me. Design wise, that's not easy to accomplish.
Yep, totally agree. And yeah, it's not a light knife by any means. I think this one's about, I want to say it's 10 or 11 ounces.
Oof. Yeah, heavy for me is the D10 Demco 8020, which is like 6 ounces. So
yeah,
wait till you handle it when I get a tail whip. I think the tail whip is going to be more your size and your style, because that's a lot smaller.
I agree. Yep.
That's why the tail whip is the one that's appealing to me, because of its size, but it's still almost got like this like nice build compound grind blade that looks freaking awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, so right on. Tom, what knife you want to talk about, buddy?
It's kind of tough, because I guess that Presidio 2 was the only one that I knew that really had anything to talk about, but the one I carried the most recently would be that K390 PM2, and there's no point in me going into a PM2 when there's hundreds, if not thousands, of videos on them on YouTube. So,
well, what makes you keep carrying a PM2?
The only reason I kept carrying it was for the long-term K390 tests. That was it. But I kind of came to grow to appreciate the PM2 a little bit more over that time period.
Yeah.
Just tends to be a good knife for everything. You know, good blade shape, good size. Never really felt undergunned when I had it with me. So.
See, that's a big thing, though, right?
Yeah.
Never feeling undergunned, no matter what you're like throwing at it.
Exactly. I
So
felt like the knife itself plus the steel combo, handled everything I could really throw at it.
I really think that you, because you like that knife, since we've done this podcast, you've always had a PM2. I think you should at least consider investing in a set of Aramis scales, the 3D contoured ones.
I've considered it.
It makes the knife completely different. Like
I've felt them before. They're fucking nice.
They're super nice, man. And it makes the knife feel like a nice rounded contoured knife in your hand.
Yeah.
Which is the one thing I didn't like the PM2 because of those blocky scales.
That's why I made this one my own when I took a little bit of the texture off the G10 and then rounded all the corners.
There you go.
I made this one a little bit more usable for me.
Yeah.
I've heard that the shipping times from Russia right now have actually gotten way better because for a while everything was getting stuck and it was taking months to get. But I've heard people lately getting Aramis scales where, from when they order them, they've got them in hand in a month.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's good too, man. I've been dealing with him for years. I think I bought 3 or 4 sets, and it was good business every time. He's got an Amazon store, actually. Really? I don't know if he has it, but yeah, that's how I ran into him at first.
Yeah, he does. He's got quite a few different sets you can get on Amazon.
But he was cool, though, because he emailed me. He's like, hey, by the way, if you buy from my store, it'll be cheaper than if you buy from here on Amazon. He emailed me that. So I went on his thing and on his website and bought him directly from there. And, yeah, he got them right out. But they come from Russia. So, they take a minute, but
yeah,
totally worth it.
He makes them fast. It's just shipping that can take a while, depending.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what's going on with shipping right now. I had a guy give me something in Sweden, sent it on his end. It was supposed to be 6-day shipping. We're on 19, 20 days now.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it gets hung up in customs somewhere or what the deal is.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean,
I sent some stuff
it's just up in the air, right?
Yeah, I sent some stuff to Australia, and it was supposed to be 6 or 8 days, and it was about 3.5 weeks. Both times to 2 different people there. So, but it was about 3.5 weeks for each of them.
So, Tom, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So regarding that PM2, right? We're not going to talk about PM2 too much because we all know what a PM2 is, but that K390.
Yep.
Where do you put that steel at compared to some of the other steels you play with all the steels? Where do you put it at? Where does it sit in between, what 2 steels?
It's kind of unique because as far as edge retention goes, it kind of feels like a higher end, I'm not going to put it in the realm of Maxmet because it's not. But, it's there with 10V, it's there with,
M4.
M4, yeah, it's M4-ish, a little bit better, a little worse, depending on how the heat treat and stuff is. But it sharpens like it's not one of those steels. It sharpens very, very nicely. You wouldn't, when you're sharpening it, you wouldn't think that it's as good with edge retention as it really is.
Interesting.
It took me, I think, 3 months to do the long-term carry of it, and big fan of it. Honestly, it's up there as one of my favorite steels. I know I say that every time I get done with a long-term carry, but
how does it compare to another steel in its stainlessness?
I honestly, where I'm at in Ohio, I don't have issues with corrosion. I've carried a lot of stuff, unless I purposely go out of my way to cut.
But
things.
Does it have carbon in it, or
yeah, it's
very light amount or heavy?
It's a high carbon steel, so it's gonna, if you're somewhere coastal, you're probably gonna get some rust on it, or if you sweat a lot, you're probably gonna get some rust.
So it's like M4-ish in that respect.
Yeah, very similar.
Okay. Cool. Gerald,
What What about it?
Gerald, what knife are you going to talk about?
Oh, I'm not. I'm taking a hard pass on that.
All right. We all know Gerald likes his 8015, and we also know that Gerald likes his Andre DeVier, the Butcher.
Jack Butcher? Yeah.
So you want to talk about one of those two?
Yeah, and my like 20-something Mannixes. Yeah, I like those too.
All right. So let's move right along to Dirk. And actually, Dirk already went, and go to Jake.
And Jake went first.
Jake went first. So I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
It would be your turn there, buddy.
Damn it. All right. So today, the knife I'm going to talk about is this Steve Skiff Made Blades Drifter. I really, really, really like this knife a lot. I've had it for a few months, and actually, it's the next knife I'm doing a YouTube review on. It's kind of cool because it's a really interesting size. It's not really a big knife, but it's got a lot of blade to it, and it's got a very tall hollow grind, right? It's CPM 154, so it's not your super steel, but you can see how beautiful it takes a nice finish, and it's going to do just fine. The only two things I wish this knife would do differently is the pocket clip looks awesome, but it's too long.
It looks a bit long, yeah.
I would have had the clip end, like it would have terminated like right there for me, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got a lot more than that. So that was one thing. And then the other thing is, because the detent's so strong on it, most people, when I hand this knife over to them, kind of slip off this thing quite a few times before they actually deploy it. So either lighten up the detent, because the detent ball is huge in this thing, or maybe give the flipper tab a little bit more of a forward angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
This way you get just a tiny bit more leverage. But here's an interesting thing that I actually found out about it. So most people have handled an F3, right?
Yep.
Like a Curtis F3.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So it's kind of like one of those knives, right? It's an interesting size knife. It's kind of big, but it's not, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
So the Drifter, when compared to an F3, is almost identical, the overall length and everything. So, and I've always liked the F3, but the F3 is so thick, right? Well, the Drifter is super thin.
Okay.
So that's kind of like where it sits in like size and carry. Kind of a cool knife in a cool spot. And it's got the hidden lock pin, on the inside and everything, over travel stop. So as I was talking to another friend about this guy the other day, he's the most well-known unknown knife maker. Because everybody says how underrated this guy is, and they're right. But for some reason, they don't take off like Spectres or like, those other fancy CNC knives.
Mm-hmm.
I would use the shit out of that thing.
Me too.
That's what it's meant for, man. Right? And I've actually been carrying this thing exclusively quite a bit lately. And I'll have a lot of stuff to say on the review about the details, but really awesome little knife. The texturing just makes it look so cool. It almost, basically, to me, it looks more expensive than what I actually paid for it.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about that knife is the handle milling, because the texture it gives it while still just being a titanium frame lock. I love that it's not aggressive, it's not a pocket shredder, it's not uncomfortable to hold on to, but it's better grip than most G10. And it looks fantastic. It's like the Spyderco Drunken, kind of, how they did that Sinkovich Drunken pattern milling on the titanium. I love details like that. I think it looks really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting too. The waves actually follow from the flat titanium onto the collars and continue off. Like they're lined up exactly right.
Yeah.
Just kind of like a neat little detail. Now, on the flip side, this long clip, one thing that is kind of cool about it is that when you're holding the knife, since the clip is so long, like you don't feel a clip in your hand, you feel like just a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like a finger sticking in and or two. Like
Right.
feels like feels good. Just doesn't.
And maybe that was his thought.
And it could have been
kind of blended into the handle, you know, so to speak. So it just feels like part of that whole handle, maybe. Don't know.
So very cool knife. It's engraved inside like a Norseman.
Okay.
Picture and your serial number right there. You got lots of access for the lock bar, kind of springy. And the one last thing I'm going to highlight is like, so when I've ordered plenty of knives, and I tell the maker I want gold, right? But this like really looks like gold, like gold
That's
plated.
like a true gold, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the goldest gold I've seen on a knife.
That's
Everyone always does
my
bronze
point.
when you say gold.
Yes, normally
And-
it's a bronze.
And when I ordered this thing, she was asking me, she's like, hey, you know, so what kind of gold do you want? I'm like, I want that thing to look like it's 24 karat gold is what I said in the email, right? Like,
Mhm.
I want gold. And I still expected like a light bronze or, you know, some
Right.
bronze wash. And when I got it out of the pouch and I saw this, I'm like, holy shit, fucking badass.
Oh, I bet.
So that was another thing I wanted to highlight about the knife is that's really nice anodizing.
So the pivot collar, it has to be a separate piece, right?
It is.
So,
Mhm.
Acts like a little over travel stop.
so have you taken it apart yet?
Nah.
I'm wondering if when you take it apart, if you have to
You
put
have
it
to
back.
line it back up.
Yeah.
It
Or
would
is
be
it keyed?
interesting to know.
That's what I was thinking. If there was some sort of indexing on the inside of the scale for it to sit the same place every time.
I
It's
mean,
probably keyed.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's probably keyed, but I don't want to give it that much credit until I take it apart and really see. But I already give it lots of credit, and it's possible because look how much time he made sure that all lines up.
That's
Right?
awesome.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I love it.
And then, you know, he leaves the blade nice and sterile, right? It still says his name on there, but it only says it when you close the knife just right there,
That's cool.
right?
Ah,
Love that.
perfect.
And that's all you'll see. So,
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah, a
nice.
lot of really nice little details about this thing. Jake, what do you think of the Drifter?
I mean, I want one. I think it looks great. You brought that when we met up in the woods, didn't you?
I don't remember if I brought this or
That sounds
maybe I
way
did.
sketchier than what it really was.
I think you did,
No comment.
because I'm pretty sure if I
Me
didn't
and
play
Jake
with that
going
one,
in the woods, you know.
I know I played with either yours or I know I played with Nick. To a-
We met up in the
Yeah.
woods. I played with yours.
I played with mine too. It
Come
was
on.
fair,
There's
guys.
got to be a soundboard for this.
It was an equal trade. We both played with each other.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, as long as it was fair, I guess that's okay. Then.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What?
that's-
Yeah. So I think I've handled that knife
There you go.
there. I handled Nick Rogers from Niche Designs, his knife, in the parking lot when we met up one time.
Oh,
And he's got
you must be talking about this knife,
that one, yes. Which
the
is
full dress culprit that he let me borrow here.
so.
Jesus.
Both of those have gotten me very, very interested in skiff. I would. They're kind of on my short list of like expensive knives to give a shot.
Well, I mean, the full dress something like this is probably like a $1,700 knife, I think.
Yeah, no, I'll be real basic if I spec one out.
And that's really not that bad.
But when you think about a custom knife, Like, that's pretty damn cheap for Zerkatai everything from pivot colors, backspacer to pocket clip.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm just saying I'm too poor to afford something like that. So I would be getting like a very plain Jane.
yeah, like
just
mine,
by
man.
doing some anodizing. Yeah.
Mine's a plain Jane, bro. That's it. That's as plain as you can get. Like I said, the anodizing just makes
the colors.
really
Right.
stand out.
Right. Yeah, I would just pick a slightly different color ano because I wouldn't want to be exactly the same as you. But if you didn't already have that one, I might do literally the same knife.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was, again, I didn't expect to have gold like that. That was freaking very awesome. But this thing's cool too. It's actually a little bit bigger. This is probably his most popular one. The
I
reason
dig
why,
the Warney though.
huh?
I dig the Warney though. The blade shape on yours, I
Well,
prefer.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is the blade, like, because the drop is so dramatic, like aesthetically, it just never was my thing. Like, I didn't like the blade shape that much. I mean, I don't dislike it, but just not enough to buy a custom knife. Like, just too dramatic of a drop for me. So when I heard that they made the Wharncliffe or the Sheep's Foot, I'm like, yeah, I'm all over that. And glad I did. It's a really cool knife. And crazy good price, $825 for a full custom CNC knife like that with all those details. I think that's pretty good.
I agree. And even his full dress price at 17, even $1,800,
Yeah.
that's some makers kind of plain Jane's customs.
Right.
Right. I mean, I'm having TJ Fisher build me something right now, and it's in that 18 to 2000 range, and that's more of the plain Jane.
Right.
That's me holding it in the woods, by the way. I just pulled up the footage. So I did
boy.
hold Alex's in the woods.
And he
That
played
must-
with it.
That photo's not safe for
After
work.
you guys got dressed again.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it all on video.
Oh boy.
What site is that on?
Yeah, exactly. That's
Patreon
It
exclusive.
wasn't YouTube.
a Patreon exclusive.
Is that that
Gotta go
OnlyFans
behind
that we
the
were talking
paywall
about
for
before
that.
we started the episode, Jake?
Yeah.
Damn, son, you just hit with a wow effect.
I told Tom that I'm going to start a fan reviewing channel, and I'm going to do fan reviews on OnlyFans. And I want to see how big of a following I can get just reviewing fans on the site that it makes most sense to do it.
Okay, that'd be perfect.
The recommended amount of detonated wham I should have to.
We're gonna take the soundboard away from Alex.
Okay.
You lost your privileges after like the third sound. Oh.
Oh.
All right. So, yeah. I think that wraps up the knife talk, right? Let's go to the main subject.
Yep.
Everybody go?
Yep.
Gerald, or forever hold your peace. All right, let's go to the topic. I already saw his
Talking about.
All right. So tonight's main topic is going to be, it's going to be a simple statement about all of us YouTubers, knife reviewers, about us knife collectors and the Facebook groups, the knife community in general, right? Have we all become too snobby about knives in general? Have we become too hypercritical? Are we being objective in what we say or what we talk about? Or are we just being subjective and treating it objectively?
I can chime in. So
that is the talk of the subject. And all you guys, Tom, I leave you responsible to handle the comment section.
Okay.
All right.
So I try to make a point on my channel to be very transparent about where I become subjective, because a bulk of my reviews are largely subjective. It's me talking vlog style about my experience with a knife. There are certain things about knives that are measurable, and I think it's a good thing when reviewers hold makers accountable to those things, like actually using good materials, actually having tolerances that fit together and are finished well, and all of that is like tangible, and there are metrics of performance for that. But I think as long as we are honest about when we're being subjective and when things just stray into our taste and what we like and don't like because it's our preference, then I think that's a healthy thing to do. I think I wish more people could kind of dwell in the intangible. I'm more of like I like to talk less about specs and more about how I feel about something. And if you can get to the core of a reviewer and start to understand where their preferences are, then that information is really valuable for me when I'm trying to buy something. If I know what you like and why you like certain things, and then you talk about how knives make you feel, then I can kind of read between the lines and figure out whether I'd like it too.
Okay. Well said. So I kind of just brought this up because, it's, it kind of goes back to even like something it relates to steel, right? Because even Gerald's doing that 30 days of S30V, kind of go back and see how, sometimes it's just that the knives, so I'll put it this way. When I first bought my first folding pocket knife that I thought I was going to spend a few extra bucks, I bought a folding Kershaw knife like in 2001, and it was $80 back then. That would probably be equivalent to like a $500 knife right now.
Right.
And, I think I bought that at the Military PX, if I remember right. And that at the time, of course there were still custom knives. There's this whole world that I didn't know existed and to be discovered, right? But at the time, when we're talking materials and build quality and this and that, it's it was a little bit different. And then, you start, getting to when I started collecting in like 2012, 2013 era, then all of a sudden M390 starts coming out, right? Super steels and more of these crazy things. Even before that, of course, I'm going to say probably 2008, 2009 is when you start seeing the evolution of like crazy knife making in more the production side of things, and then mid-tech coming around later on. And so it's just now it's gotten to the point where you can buy an M390 knife, right? That's fully made of titanium with some ball bearings on it. It's probably going to have a deep carry clip, and you can probably find something like that for about $80. Am I wrong?
Not wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
So then, like, when you watch the reviewers, sometimes I see like they're so hypercritical on certain knives, like a knife that's absolutely outstanding to the vast majority. Well, you nitpick like, it could knock the little corners right here, and the pocket clip's not quite as recessed, and it gets to a point sometimes where they almost make the knife sound like it's not as good as it actually is.
I think you can be good about reviewing knives against other knives in their own class, though, if you're making comparisons. Like if I'm reviewing an $80 knife, I'm not holding it to the standards that I hold a $600 Koenig Arius to. I might be just as excited and like give as positive of a review to an $80 knife as I do to this knife. And the difference in quality is going to be massively different between them. So if I'm dumping on a $50 knife because it's bad, I'm dumping on it because it's bad compared to the other $50 knives that are better, not because it's worse than an Arius. Like that, I think you can still call bad because at any price point there are great knives and there are crappy knives for their price point. You just have to be sensitive to like, how much does this cost and what am I comparing it to? Because without that framework, then it's like, you can call anything bad because a $20,000 custom whatever is going to dump on it, you know?
Well, and that's exactly my point. Is like, I think a lot of times when people either are talking about knives or reviewing knives, I think the best thing that people need to keep in mind is I actually like it when people talk about how they feel about the knife or they like in the personal stuff. But I think like it's important to, you know, like when you're actually rating the knife itself, that you should rate the knife as the knife on its own, right? And then like, because for example, a knife that maybe not fits in your hand could fit very well in somebody else's hand, right? And
Sure.
you maybe think that M390 is what you think is the requirement of the minimal, where technically like the average Joe could probably get away with S30V and really enjoy the knife.
Well, yeah, well, that's a huge statement right there.
And, all right, take it away, Gerald.
God, look. I think as a whole, companies have the quality part down. Do some shitty knives get out there? Absolutely. Like that CJRB Feldspar I picked up to see how they were. That thing is, I mean, it's a huge piece of junk. Now, like this 20CV Kershaw Ling. Yeah, it didn't cut much more than S30V, but it's like $80-85.
There you go.
You know, it's built solid. I don't watch a ton of reviews. Pretty much outside of the people that we talk to here and that we talk to on Insta, I really don't watch anybody else's reviews. When I have, if I do, I hear a whole lot of it's M390 or it's 20CV, you know, it's S35, so it's good to go. No, whoa, that's a huge thing. I think companies, for the most part, have quality down. Build quality, machining quality. They need some serious work on the heat treat side.
Mm.
And I mean, we're talking maybe 10 to 15% of companies. If you buy something from that, you don't have to worry about how is the heat treat on this.
Agreed, 100%.
So where you step into ZT, I have one ZT. I have the 804 Rexford. I love the design. The 20CV isn't as good as Benchmade S30V.
Wow. That's
You
not
know,
a that's not a
that
cheap
kind of
knife.
goes into how much do people actually use their knives. If
Right.
you have something with a poorly heat treated M390, if it takes you 4 months to dull that, to you that's good.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think for the most part, the heat treat is what everybody needs to work on. Because if people had more even decently heat treated steels, then they would actually see a huge difference.
When they're buying different knives, right?
Yes. And to top that off, how much do people actually use their stuff? How many times do they actually sharpen it?
Right.
I mean, I know just from some of the stuff I've tested, some stuff, you know, it's 8, 10, 15 times before you can get repeatable performance. I mean, I know plenty of people that judge stuff off the factory edge. You see the posts everywhere all the time. You know, my S110V is chippy, my S30V is chippy. Well, if you're running around on the factory edge still, it doesn't matter really who it's from, unless you're getting it from a custom maker that's doing some kind of cooled grinding and keeping the heat down. You're going to chip anything on the factory edge. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, and there's so many people that do judge it like that. They'll judge off the factory edge and then chalk it up as the steel shit and then sell it, and then you have however many people saw it in the Facebook group that they posted it to, and then all those people won't buy that steel anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is an evidence of why I'm glad that there are reviewers who do what you two do versus what I do, because I don't have the patience or the mind to do all the steel testing side of things, but I appreciate it massively. And so I think it's a great evidence of like, you guys aren't subjective. You're taking a scientific, methodical approach to laying out how something performed in real use, and you're providing data. There's nothing subjective about that. Whereas the style I have is like 80% subjective and 20% like physical features. And so I think it's good to have the sources like you guys who can provide the data for everything. It's not a, how did this knife make me feel like I do? It's a, this is how it performed, and that's, I think both have their place, and different viewers are looking for different information. So it's better to have that whole spectrum.
Definitely.
Yep. And I, like Jake said, my style is very subjective too, because I'm all about design, like the design is what I like. The way the knife is designed to work, as far as the way they grind it, the way they cut it, the way the lock bar is supposed to work, the opening and closing experience. So it's like me fondling a knife more than using it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So more of a subjective style too. But I think it's very clear that whatever I say usually is just whatever it is I say. Half the time, I even will say in some of my videos, like, what do I know? But it's I think it's something that relays more to like me and Jake's and Dirk's style of like YouTubing, because steel testers are usually more objective anyways, right? Like that's the whole thing, is measurable kind of scientific or grid style data that you can look at and compare to. And it's cool to have those guys around, because that's not, that's not something I'm willing to do on the 200 knives that I own. So
now, at the same time, where the subjective part comes in on the very positive side, if there's 30 reviews, of a particular knife out there, and 28 of them say the clip digs into my hand, the lock bar is a really, really big hot spot when I'm using the knife, then there's a pretty damn good chance when you get that knife, the clip's going to dig in your hand and the lock bar is going to be a hot spot.
Right. Yeah, and I think too, like, I think when I used to be more watching reviews before I made reviews, I would see a lot of like, I would watch certain reviewers, right? And then I wouldn't watch more than maybe 2 different reviewers on the knife before I already made my bias. I think it's better when people look at more stuff. If you're really interested and this is like a crazy investment to you, like to do that. Usually it was like adding piece 151 to a collection of 150, so I never was that.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
I'd say as well, I think you mentioned, Alex, that there's been a big kind of a curve in the amount of progress, both in material and in the expectation of knife makers. And this might be a little bit self-serving for me to say as a reviewer, but I think a lot of that, I'm pretty new at it, I can't claim any of that, but I think a lot of the culture of there being a portion of the knife community who focuses on breaking down knives and reviewing them and getting into the minutia of their experience with them, it fuels the progress that we've seen. And the steel snobs who are testing the steels and measuring their performance are kind of holding these makers accountable to, now hopefully they'll start focusing more on heat treating. So the more that the attention is given to these like subtle parts of knife collecting, as much as the average guy would be happy with a Kershaw, to those of us that care about it, we're getting better products because we're focusing so heavily on the little tiny things. And is it snobby? Absolutely. I'm a snob about knives, but I still appreciate a good budget knife. Like it's the hobby is a huge part of my life. So of course I care deeply about the little things within it. And hopefully over time, that just means better products for everybody at every price point, because the makers want to meet that demand that they're getting.
Yes. Well, look at the stinger that you showed. Look at the Asher knives that are out. You know, you're getting some good stuff for under $100. So, like you said earlier, yeah, there isn't a ton of competition in that $50 to $100 market. You know, are you going to go buy a D2 Civivi for, you know, close to $80 when you can buy something like that Stinger? Or you can buy an Asher knife and you're not, you know, even if the steel isn't done as well, even some of the poor S35BN I've had well outcuts and holds up better in use than just about every D2 I've had.
Yeah. And a few years ago, that segment didn't look like that. It wasn't that competitive. So I think we drive competition in that space, and that's a positive more than it's a negative, even though sometimes it gets overly nitpicky and snobby for sure.
Well, like you said, go back 2-3 years, that price point of the market was pretty much dominated by Kershaw and Cold Steel.
Yep.
I mean,
think Cold Steel's still like one of the dominators, man. I love Cold Steel knives.
Kershaw isn't, CRKT isn't, like a lot of the players that were there have been surpassed.
Kershaw could go there because Kershaw, you know, every time they come out with a sprint, everybody goes nuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Kershaw has the ability to be, you know, they can come out whenever they want.
I said in my bare knuckle sprint review that I want them to start doing that more. I think you're right. That's how they re-emerge into that space that they've kind of been pushed out of, because now they're being forced to play that game and provide more material with some exclusivity and finishes and things that make it cool to be able to sell knives at that price point. And I think that's an evidence of what we're talking about. But because people are expecting more there, now Kershaw's having to up their game and, okay, we'll give you an exclusive finish and a different steel and a different handle material, and now it's worth it. And it is.
Yeah,
it's more worth
I'd
it.
like to see them continue that, though, as production stuff. Like, if you can make an M4 blur, even if it is on a little bit on the softer side, for $75, why don't you offer that as a regular model?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I love that blur.
People, by and large, don't like assisted knives. The assist on the blur is pretty weak, so it's not like a lot of their other stuff, but it's an extremely popular model,
Right?
as it is. So I don't understand why they don't offer more steels in one of your flagship models. It's been around for that kind of time period as well.
I agree.
There it is.
Dropping bombs.
Oh boy.
Bombs of knowledge.
Dirk is never coming back after the soundboard.
Speak to the people.
I don't know, man. That's a little much there, Alex. Come on now. Having way too much fun over there, man.
Never have I seen such a small amount of power go to a man's head
I know.
so quick.
Right. So quickly.
I told you guys we needed a soundboard, right?
Yeah.
We needed is a strong term.
You guys,
Do we need anything? Do we need half the knives that we have?
you guys are just sad because I'm the one in control of the soundboard.
We're just all jealous. That's all.
All right,
All
moving right
right.
along. I'm in control here.
Yeah, need is a strong word.
Oh man, I don't think we got Dirk's comments on knife snobbery. Where do you
No,
land
we're
on
not
that
done
one,
yet. I'm still listening. You guys distracted me with the soundboard.
I
You
think
distracted you.
that, yeah, we probably all have become a bit snobby because we have to remember that this is a luxury item now. Your $80, $100 knife. It kind of leads into the word need. Do we need the Holt Spectre at table price of $818? Or does your $90 on sale, $72 with a discount code, Fair and Forge, basically cut everything you needed to cut? I think, for me personally, My collection is all just fancy luxury stuff. I have a couple of old things that are just utilitarian, $100, $200 knives. Great. Everything else is fancy because I can afford it and I wanted it and it looked pretty and shiny. And that kind of carries over too. I'm into watch collecting now, and don't do that. But do you need a watch? Do you need anything more than a $100 or $200 G-Shock? Not really. But I was over at the Omega dealer in town yesterday looking at some stuff, and he's ordering one up for me. So, and that's quite a bit more than $200 G-Shock. But it's the same thing with knives. I mean, do we really need a Direware, Luther Orphan, Medford, any of these things that we collect? No, that's kind of being snobby. A little bit. It's not really snobby if we're not looking down on the guy who's super excited about his $90 knife because that's what he can afford. And he saved for that and he bought his $90 knife. And if we're happy for him, then we're not being snobs. It's when we look down on him because, you got a $90 knife in your pocket? Mine's $500 in mine. Then you become a snob and kind of an ass. But if we're happy for the guy with a $90 knife, and in reality, that $90 knife can do everything my $500 knife does. It just doesn't look as cool, maybe, because of aesthetics or materials and whatnot. Well, then you're not a snob. Kind of my take on it, I think. I mean, it's a luxury item. When we get up above that $100-ish, $200 knife, same with the watches. $100, $200 watch, anything up above that becomes just a luxury item that we can afford because we justify it in the back of our mind somehow. Right? I mean, do we really need that Rolex, that Omega, that, whatever luxury watch? No. But I justify it in my mind because, well, I worked really hard. I hit this milestone in my life, whatever. I justify it. Same with a knife. Yeah, I can afford to have that custom one from TJ Fisher made because of these reasons that I justify in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. Are they really good justifications? Absolutely, because in my mind, I only have to justify it to me because I'm single and my money's mine. Like, I don't need to justify it to anybody. Alex, you're married. You may have to justify that stuff. Everybody's different. Is that a good argument for your wives? Maybe not.
Yeah, that's a different hurdle.
I've been there and done that before. I'm glad I'm single now and I can buy what I want to buy and still put a roof over my head and food on the table. So as long as we're not looking down on the $90 guy, then I don't think we're snobs. And I don't think, as long as we're not being jerks to those, then we're not.
Yep. And we can still call a bad $90 knife a bad $90 knife.
Yeah, because there are bad
what's good.
And there are bad $2,000 knives.
For sure.
I mean, I've had custom knives here that I couldn't put in my pocket because the clip was so tight, it would not go in my pocket. And it was a $1,000 knife that was custom done. I was, really? Like, you made two. One for me and one for somebody else, and you didn't put it in your pocket and check it? Like, really? And I talked to the other guy because I knew the other guy that was getting one too. And he goes, yeah, dude, I could barely, he had the same exact problem. So it's back with the maker right now being fixed. But I'm like, really? I shouldn't have to adjust a clip on a $1,000 custom knife.
Right.
That was a bad job. That was a quality control thing that just got missed. But at every price point, there's something great, and at every price point, there's something bad.
Yep, absolutely.
And we all need to remember that. And like Jake said, when we're reviewing stuff, if you're comparing this $90 knife to this $90 knife, and you're calling this one bad, because it doesn't measure up to this one, great. If you're comparing the $90 knife to the Spectre, well, then you're a snob, and you shouldn't be doing that. You have to compare them in their price range or their class or their intended use, things like that.
Right.
Well said, Dirk.
Absolutely.
Just my 2 cents. 1 cent with inflation, whatever, my opinion, right?
What do you think, Tom?
I think I'm kind of right there, and maybe more than some of you other guys. That for a while I was getting kind of snobby as far as buying more and more and more expensive things. Buying $3, $4, $5, almost $600 knives, and at a certain point, you just kind of realize that, like Dirk said, it's not necessary. You don't need it, and you see some extra quality go up as you go up in those price ranges, but it's like diminishing returns. The jump from a $10 knife to a $50 knife is huge. From $50 to $100 is still big, but it's a little less. From $250 knife to a $600 knife, is it that much? I mean, maybe a little, but not a lot. So I've kind of settled in at that anywhere from $100 to $200 price range, and it just seems like it's the best value for me. And as knives themselves are progressing, and you start to see more and more better budget options coming out, it makes me consider even why I have knives that are $100 to $200 if there's knives at $50 to $75 that are doing as well as they are. It's just
I think when you start spending obscene amounts of money on knives, the dollar goes to smaller and smaller details. From what I've experienced, it's like the tiniest little things, or it's the completely intangible that you're paying for. It's no longer even tangible at a certain point, because
absolutely,
you can get all of the fanciest materials in the world up to a certain point, and then you can still spend more, and then it's not tangible. It's just fluff, but that's worth it to some people, and I'm the last person to say it shouldn't be. So
well, and that fits into too. The QSP Penguin. It's a $30 micarta knife, D2. It's super smooth. It's well built. Knives Plus, I think it is, just put out for $60. You can get the denim micarta and S35VN, and I think for $10 more you can get carbon fiber and S35VN.
Oh, that's cool.
They're not gonna. They'll sell every single one they make. S35VN micarta, $60.
Yeah. What more do we really need? I mean, you may like a different style. You may like a little bit different materials. And when we get into kind of the luxury knives, if you will, that's what we're paying for. We want the carbon fiber. We want the Damascus. We want, this Mokuta. We want some exotic material. Does it perform any better? Absolutely not. Does it look cooler? If you want to pay for it, you may think it looks cooler because you like that. I like Damascus.
The way I've kind of been thinking about it recently is like, if you can't legitimately explain to a non-knife person why it's worth so much money over a different knife, then it's probably not actually worth it.
Zirkatai, baby, Zirkatai.
But can you explain that to your wife, Alex? And she's like, yeah, that's worth an extra $200.
And I got a thing for Damascus.
Actually, this isn't even my knife.
Okay.
For me, buying something with Damascus is worth it. Does it cut any better? No. Do I really use and cut a lot of stuff with my knives? I mean, but again, it's aesthetically pleasing to me, and it's worth a couple of bucks for this, or a couple of bucks for Damascus, or that's what you're getting into in the luxuries. That's where the money is. I think the quality is a little bit better on a $1,000 knife than a $200 knife, but not $800 worth of quality.
Right.
Generally speaking, it's not $800 worth of quality. It's maybe a little bit more exotic materials, if you will. It's got a nicer carbon fiber. It's got some inlays, things like that.
I felt like this one felt like $800 to me.
I can kind of see that with that skiff.
This felt like exactly like every penny that I paid, I got my money's worth out of it.
And then that's perfect.
And
And
Dirk,
so it's a perfect knife for you.
Dirk, I don't want it. I need it.
Well,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
then you might have
want it $800 worth.
then you might have a problem. You know.
Oh, everybody knows that.
When
Yeah, I have a knife collecting problem. I most definitely do.
you know, which I think all of us have that problem too.
Yeah, but I'm getting better at it.
The Spectre's the first knife I've bought in months. Like I legit don't know the knife I bought prior to the Spectre. I've sold a bunch because then I was chasing some luxury watches, so I sold a bunch of stuff off, and more than paid for my Rolex.
How are Medford selling right now?
Not very well. Not at any decent price.
All right.
I mean, they're not. You know, if you bought it for $800, depending on the model. I mean, I've been lucky because most of the stuff that I sold, I didn't pay retail price for. I don't think I paid retail for any Medford I owned. And so if I sell it and I lose money off of retail, I didn't lose money maybe because I got them at such deals. So, but yeah, they're $300-$400 under what you paid for them if you bought them new right now. And there's a lot of reasons why. And that's a whole probably different video.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
That's a whole topic in and of itself.
Yeah, we'll leave that one.
We're going to leave that one alone. I think you know where I stand on that one, Alex. And
Yep.
If you guys want to know, you can hit me up afterwards and we'll talk privately. But yeah. But I sold a bunch and was able to buy my first Rolex. And I sold other things in Medfords, but I did sell a bunch of Medfords off too.
I'm thinking about selling the 3 that I have. That's why I asked.
Yeah. I mean, they are selling. They're just, you're going to take a bit of a hit depending on what you paid for them. That's all. And depending on which model. Some models are selling decent. Other models are not selling decent.
Well,
right?
I have that micro that's going to be pretty desirable, right? Because it's S35VN.
Yep.
And the other one's another S35VN with a Vulcan. The colors are crazy on that one.
Yeah, the Vulcan ones are going to sell a little bit better because it's much like Damascus where you can't pick the pattern. I mean, it comes out how it comes out, right?
Right.
So if it's a real vibrant, Vulcan fitted, those ones are going to sell quicker and easier.
Yeah, because I have that 3V G as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think I'm going to...
I think for my Praetorian G with a Vulcan blade, the full-size Praetorian G, that was my first Medford I ever bought. I sold that for $400 plus shipping to Australia. So I don't remember what the shipping was, $75 maybe, something like that. I don't remember. But yeah, I said I would do free shipping in the U.S. and if you wanted international, you got to pay for that. And
Right.
it was his first Medford. He said, "I'm down in Australia. I'll pay you whatever it's going to cost." And I said, "Okay."
All right, mate. How about another
And
trip on the ball bay?
He absolutely loves it.
Oh,
And I love it too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But I was going through my phase of selling off some knives to buy some watches. And that was one of the ones that just... So I was kind of excited that went to... Having it been my first Medford, it went to another guy as his first Medford. So
that is kind of cool.
That was kind of cool for me, whatever. So kind of passed on that experience, I think, for whatever reason, if you will. But it was kind of cool.
Sweet.
But yeah, if you want to sell that, let me know. I can help you get those sold.
Oh, sweet.
After I get mine sold, but no. We'll price yours accordingly so mine can sell, and then we'll drop the price of yours.
All right. Fair enough.
I think I'm almost done with. Now I've got a few more that I'm going to sell off of his.
Very cool. How's everybody's channel doing? Is everybody still making videos? I know Jake is. I know Dirk is. I don't know about us 3.
Slowly.
Slowly. When'd you make your last video, Tom?
Let me look right now. It's probably been 2 or 3 weeks. I think probably about 2 or 3.
I think 3. I think maybe 4.
4. 4 today.
Oh.
All right.
And what about you, Alex? Yours are been kind of few and far between.
Let me look.
Alex, you still have a channel?
Right?
Yeah, you make videos?
Yeah.
I filmed my last
I
one
am your
yesterday.
weekly. I've actually changed from welcome to Alex's knife box and whatever. I'm now adding in welcome to your weekly knife dose. That's gonna be my thing because I'm gonna do it once a week. Sorry,
You got to do it weekly then.
Yeah, weekly.
All right, you gotta keep up with that though, man.
So my last video is 5 days old. 5 days, 16 hours. So I'm still good.
Okay, that's not bad.
I already got my next
better
review written, so all I have to do is film it. So yeah, I'll probably do it tonight.
I'm pushing today's video live right after we finish this. It's already uploaded. So
Yeah,
My latest one went up this morning.
yeah. I know you guys are the daily knife news peeps.
It's a bit of work. It's more work than people think.
I know it is. I already have enough work doing it once a week, maybe.
And it's not so much coming up with doing the actual video. It's making sure you got enough content to do it daily. I think that's my biggest thing. Even with what people load in and all of that, I'll go through that stuff and then I'll be like, hey, dude, you gonna send that stuff that you said you were gonna send? Because I start to run out. I mean, I only own so many. So that's, for me, that's kind of what the little bit of challenge is. And then it is a little bit of work, to film it, organize it, and, do all that stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of work with that.
yeah, the back end can be a little bit of a time suck getting everything uploaded and edited and keywords in and titled and adjusting so there's not too many ads so people freak out and all of that.
I do almost zero editing, and I suck at keywords. I just don't even focus. I just like whatever. It's going to be what it is. That's why I get, maybe 100 views a day. On a new video, I get about 100 in a 24-hour period.
Gotcha.
But, whatever. I'm not that savvy on that part of it. I just kind of do my thing.
Oh, speaking of which, I'm about to do a giveaway soon, guys. I got 60 more subscribers to go. And I'm gonna do my 1,000 subscriber giveaway.
Awesome.
And do you know what you're giving away yet?
I'm giving away a knife. I haven't said
A knife?
How about that
I'm not gonna
skiff?
say who or what kind of knife or what it is, but if you know me, it's probably gonna be something okay at least, right?
Right.
I got some hanks I'm gonna give away too that were nicely donated from our good buddy at Shadow Worn Hanks.
Okay.
And I'm giving away a number 9 copper coin.
Nice. Well, now with 60 to go, now's the time to kind of advertise that and talk about that a little more as to what you're going to do when you hit the 1,000. That will help drive a little bit. I found when I did mine.
No, they come around when they come around. I got the stuff right there in my box. So after I roll over 1,000, we'll do the video.
All right.
Like I've gotten to the point where I just wanted to get it to 1,000 subscribers. After that, I don't care. So I'm kind of like already there. Technically.
Nah, that's what everybody says, and then you get there, and then you want that next one, and that next one, and that next thing. I mean, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should hit 3 this month.
It's cool. Like I like having more subscribers. Don't get me wrong, but I think I'm not looking to do that because I know I don't have the discipline to do daily content.
Well, I don't think I would not recommend to anybody to do daily stuff. If somebody was asking me how much should I do, I would not. My first option would not be do 1 a day. I would say do 2 to 3 a week on a consistent days. Pick what days work for you, and do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or something is what I would recommend. Doing it daily, that's there's a little pressure and stuff there to keep it up.
Right.
for me, I mean, I've been able to sustain it, and there's been days where I do 2 or 3 in a day if I did unboxing or I did some, there's been a couple of those days, but yeah, I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
I can't complain for sure. All in all, it's been a really good experience so far.
Yeah, well, you and Jake have done an outstanding job. That's for sure. Gerald's got a shitload of subscribers. Tom, you're already way over 1,000, right?
Yeah, I'm about at 1,300 now.
Yeah, so I think I'm at 984 right now. So there you go.
Get on it, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're gonna do the drifter tonight. That's gonna be the video, and then I'm really excited. I actually spent time to write a nice script for this one because it's one of those knives, like one knife that you remember, that you get that year, like one of those special ones. You're like that kind of like took you by surprise. It's one of those for me for sure.
Yeah, I just sit down and start rambling.
Same here. I never have a plan.
I have a plan so much in that I have the specs. I kind of go through the specs real quick, but that's the only plan. And then I make a few notes sometimes if there's, something that somebody loaned in and there's a story behind it. I may make a couple of notes so I don't forget to talk about the story. But yeah, then it's just kind of ramble and just kind of run off at the mouth for 10 minutes or something and call it good.
Well, usually I can do the rambling thing, but I like to give myself 1 to 2 word bullet points.
Yeah.
Like on things that I'm like, I might go so fast, I might blow by this, and I want to make sure I talk about that. So that's how I do it, just little bullet points. But this one, I spent a lot more time doing like a detailed review on this than I have on a lot of the other knives I've done in a while. So.
Well, can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up so you can go film and
no,
get that thing posted.
I'm gonna go take a nap.
There you go.
And make dinner after that, and then feed the family, and then when everybody's asleep, it's nice and quiet.
Yeah, well, you got the little one.
And I can pull in the microphone and say, "Welcome to Alex's Knife Box."
I forget it's only 5 o'clock out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only 5 o'clock for us.
That's nice.
So he still has time for a nap, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
If you go lay down, that's like bedtime now.
Hey,
right? You couldn't take
that's
naps
game
right
over
now.
until tomorrow morning.
Right.
There's no such thing as a nap at 8.
Right. Oh boy.
Does that wrap it up, guys?
What do you guys think?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think that was a good discussion.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Should we wrap it?
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it.
So as always,
And remember, guys, if you ever go out in the bar and you go home with a special lady, always wrap it.
Oh my god. Or if you go out to
At
meet,
least it wasn't the soundboard.
or if you got to meet a buddy in the woods. Make sure to wrap it.
Yeah, let's. Oh boy, we went downhill quickly.
Yep. See, like I thought we were doing something. We were going like so well, new format and everything. And Alex is like, "Watch this, sound
right." Yeah, boy. Alrighty then.
All right. As always, guys, thank you guys for joining in the Twitch chat. Thank you for listening along on whatever platform you're listening on or watching on YouTube after the fact.
Fatality.
Get over here.
Paul's right. It's not even the fact that it's just a soundboard. It's not even a PC soundboard. It's just your phone. It's even worse.
Exactly. You can't take it away from him now.
No. But anyhow, we'll be back in a month, even though that's the new format. Even though we said it last time, just reminding everybody, in one more month we will be back again. So that will be
the first Sunday of every month.
First Sunday of every month. So we will see you guys then.
Or be square.
See ya.